Hi, my name is Freddie Martinez, and this is Understanding Your Bilingual Students. So, the topic I covered is bilingualism, and bilingualism is when an individual learns to speak and/or understand a second language. Early bilingualism is when the individuals learn a language before the age of 5. This is the most common form of bilingualism. The second form of bilingualism is late bilingualism, in which the individuals learn a second language after the ages of 6 or 7. Early and late bilingualism are the more common forms of bilingualism, and they can also be considered to be additive because the individuals learn a second language or can learn a second language without losing their first. Which brings us to the third type, subtractive bilingualism. This is when these individuals learn a second language at the cost of their first. So they learn to speak and understand, but the ability to speak their first language decreases. And the fourth type is passive bilingualism, in which the individual can understand the language but has a very little ability to speak the language. So the next portion we'll be talking about is the brain. So there are two major areas of the brain involved in bilingualism. The first is the Broca's area. So this area is named after a French surgeon who found evidence of speech impairment after damaging this area in the left frontal lobe. So he determined that this area controls speech. The second area is called Wernicke's area, and this is named after Wernicke, the German neurologist, who discovered that individuals that suffered damage in the left temporal lobe had difficulty understanding language. So he determined that this area is used to make sense and meaning. So I found a lot of interesting research, and I realized that I could narrow it down to three main ideas. So the first, let's talk about the fluency. So the research shows that fluency in a second language is best determined by the age in which individuals begin learning the new language, as opposed to the idea that the more time you spend learning the language, the better. As I mentioned, that the early bilingualists, they learned the language, a second language, before the age of 5, and this is an optimal period for language mastery. There is still a window of opportunity before the ages of 12, but the earlier the individual begins to learn the language, the better opportunity that they have for mastery. Next, we'll talk about the brain activity. So the research that I read also shows that the learning two or more languages increases cognitive abilities, increasing levels of creativity and flexibility. Studies on the language parts of the brain of bilingual and monolingual individuals found that both languages are always active in bilingual brains. That occurs even when the individuals are in a situation that only involves one language. So their brains are actively using both. So one of the challenges that comes with having both languages active in the brain is that there's a slight delay in processing information. This is due to the two languages competing uh, to process in the information. So you'll process it in both English and Spanish, per se. Learning a second language is often discouraged in students with developmental delays, and this is due to the challenge of learning another language. But a study found that learning to speak two languages does not harm the children with developmental delays, and it actually has been found to protect against cognitive decline that comes with like dementia and Alzheimer's. So what applications does this have in the classroom? So it's good to always be mindful of the bilingual students' brain development. So it's good to create an environment that promotes the use of the native language. This helps to like boost their self-esteem. Be aware of the students' abilities and background early into the class. So this will help you and educators relate to their students and find ways to relate the content to them. Allow bilingual students sufficient time to answer questions and solve problems. Again, this goes back to the students having a delay in their processing. And ensure that there are multiple forms in which to express their ideas. So multiple forms of representation allow them to not only demonstrate their understanding through writing, but have them give them the opportunity to create drawings, create videos, maybe do like an oral presentation. And I've listed these impacts here too. One of the ones I didn't mention is that allowing students to feel safe and competent in their abilities can increase their academic performance, which goes back to creating a safe environment and allowing them to, or encouraging them to use their native language. And that is my presentation. I have here a list of references in case you feel like you want to go and research this for yourselves. And I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Thank you.